Welcome back to the Witch's Way podcast. This is Kat and Jamie.
Jat and Kami.
Yep, we're dyslexic. You're going to learn that about that.
Yeah.
You're going to learn that about us. But today we're going to talk about generational trauma.
Generational curses, yeah. Breaking generational curses, which is truly generational trauma. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And Jamie's got a story to share.
Well, it's how to start it out, because I don't think... Number one, all right, let me back up, because I get excited and ahead of myself also. This podcast is our first one, and we really want to start with generational curses and how to break them, because many times when I am teaching witches, what ends up happening is they say, I can't change this. This is part of my family's dynamic. This is our generational curse. This is my family's curse. This is they're destined to just be in this place and have a shitty time, and that's this is their lot in life, and they think that it's already decided for them.
It can feel like that.
100%.
It can absolutely 100%. Feel that way, because when you look back at the generations of where it all came from, you're it almost feels hopeless.
You see the pattern.
You see the pattern. You're like, how do you break it? It really takes.
It takes a
lot of different things.
A lot of different things, yeah. So you can start naming stuff. But so that is why we first want to start off with breaking generational curses, because that has been something that comes up where people really tend to feel powerless, like they don't have control over what happens to them. And we are here to break that myth, or at least tell you, if you feel like you're part of a generational curse, we can help you stop it or become different. Get out of it.
I believe that the practice of witchcraft as a spiritual tool can help you break some of these things that you think are ingrained habits in you that can just never be changed. I'm here to tell you that they can, because I'm 66, Jamie's 44, so we have a lot of years of experience, and we have a lot of crap that we've gone through, worked through, healed from.
It's possible.
And are still healing from. And
still working through sometimes.
Still working through. So, yeah.
So we're going to be exploring how trauma is passed down and how to stop the cycle. Maybe, I don't know where you're at in your journey right now, but I'm sure that the things that we're going to talk about today, you have heard before in your family gatherings. It doesn't even matter who you've been raised by. This doesn't mean that this goes from, mom to daughter to mom to daughter to mom. It doesn't go back and forth like that. It's just whoever you're around, whoever raised you. So I'm going to bring up the best way to really think about this. And I want you guys to, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you have, though. It's our witch's favorite movie, Practical Magic. Let's just talk about the premise of Practical Magic that people forget so often.
You know what? I've seen that movie. I love that movie. But when you told me what the actual premise of the movie was, it's I don't remember that.
I know. It's
I
crazy.
Literally don't, because there was too many other things going on that you forget. So go ahead and remind us what the movie's about.
Listen, the premise of Practical Magic is about a 300-year-old generational curse that was set by a family member way back when, who got pregnant by a man, and he left her. And so she did a spell that she would never fall in love again. And it supposedly haunted or carried along through the generations of the Owens women. And any woman who fell in love, any Owens woman who fell in love, the man was destined to die. And so they're telling that story at the beginning, where they hear a certain Beatles clicking sound, right? Because the two girls lost their parents in a car accident, and that's how they were, raised by their aunts, their witchy aunts, which is just amazing. But the Death Watch beetle was the beetle that they heard this clicking sound, and they thought if they could kill the beetle, it would not happen to them. But they're cursed, right? Out of their control. Can't do anything about it.
You're cursed, yeah.
That's right. It feels like your lot in life to just live this thing out because your ancestors did. Or an ancestor sounds much older than I think of, but your lineage, your grandparents,
your predecessor.
Great-grandparents,
your recent predecessors.
So now that you know that one of the most loved witches movies, Practical Magic, is actually based upon a generational curse.
Now I want to go back and watch it.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I do.
Because they end up, that's not the bulk of the movie. The bulk of the movie is them learning magic because they never wanted anything to do with it. But, okay. So I think that, number one, this is a great way to think of how generational curses really start. Somebody has to tell you that there is one. The words that we say to each other are so incredibly important. If I had raised my son telling him, it is a generational curse for all of the Williams women to be single moms, or, you know, for us to all grow up fatherless, you know. That feels real to me because it happened. It is a real thing, but it was not from a curse. And telling him that would only make him believe that those things were going to fail in his life.
But it doesn't, I mean, first of all, we don't believe in curses.
Curse is a strong word for it, but that's where the generational trauma comes from. So
but
people saying that it's a way of thinking.
I think you bring up a good one. Is like, well, I was raised. My mother lost her father. He disappeared when she was 3. My father disappeared when I was about 3.
Oh wow.
You lost your dad, so it does feel like it's a generational. There's a pattern that you see, and that feels like this generational thing. It's like, how do you stop it? You know, or if you've had to live through it, how do you reconcile it?
Sure. How do you not feel defeated?
How do you still live a healthy, happy life with this trauma that you've endured?
Well, so I thought the best way to carry on to the next point is to really talk about my own. And here are what I would see as my generational traumas, right? Because I know that my grandmother, my mother, I don't know much about my grandmother, or my great-grandmother, I mean, but mine were being a single mom, like feeling alone raising kids. Now, when my grandmother was doing this, it was because the men went off to work and the women stayed home. But she had a hell of a time raising 6 children. And I feel like in some of the stories that my mom has told me about my grandmother, who I don't know, like, at all, she went batshit crazy. Like, she just did not raise the kids with enough love and care that the love overshadowed all the bullshit that she put them through or put my mom through. And so the single mom thing, like feeling alone raising children, there's not a partnership there. I was so afraid that would happen to me, and I tried my damnedest to make sure I was not a single mom. And you know what? I left my son's father when he was 2, and I was like, fuck you, I'm gonna do what I want. I don't like you anymore. So I did it. I had to choose what was better for me, even though I was fighting against this thing saying I never wanted to be a single mom. It crushed me. I mean, I probably spent a year crying about it, thinking, I didn't want to do this. This is not what I wanted. I didn't want to be like my mom. I didn't want to be like my grandma. I just didn't want this thing to happen to me. But to save my own sanity, and also to not become like an illicit drug user, because that was the only way people got by where I was. Everybody popped pills, and I'm like, I don't think that I should become a drug user. I don't think that makes me a better mom. Maybe my son would have a dad in the picture, but what kind of mom is he going to have? You know, it was a choice. So I fled from South Carolina and moved to Florida way back in 2009 because of that, because I wanted better for my son, and I had to accept that I was going to be a single mom, and I fucking hated it. It made me so mad. But also, it was freeing. Like, that was the first part of breaking my generational thing, was like confronting that. The next was self-worth. You know, my mom and I both grew up in households that had some form of abuse, and I watched her go through it. But what was really different between my mom and me's relationship versus my mom and her mom's relationship is my mother was like, don't ever let this shit happen to you. Fuck them. You are strong, independent. And she felt so stuck where she was, and she's like, I can't change my lot, but she really did give me like the courage and the belief in myself that it didn't have to be this way for us, but she had to go through it for us. So I always saw her as like self-sacrificing to make sure her kids got out of it alive.
So that's interesting that you say that, because when I think about, all I wanted when I was a little kid was to be a mom like my mom, 6 kids, and the dad goes off to work. I didn't know anything else, and I thought that that was the life. That was what you did, and I wanted to nurture children and have my own little. But my dream was to not be like my mother. I was absolutely determined that I was not going to be my mother, because she was very unloving. And she had a lot of emotional problems. I mean, you'll hear the stories about her later on, but this was a woman who went through some shit. And by the time she started having kids at 15, first time she got pregnant, it
Say the thing, because wasn't it like she wanted to get out of her house? So she got
pregnant? She really did. I mean, she wanted to get away from her mother because her mother was just overbearing. And she was also very unkind. So there's another thing that you see passed along. And I still have the tone of voice of her sometimes. A lot of times I would come out with my kids, but I forgot my point now. I lost it. I was determined not to be the type of mother that my mother was, and I wanted to have a close relationship and a loving relationship, and I wanted my children to be able to come and talk to me about things and to not be afraid, because I spent a lot of time growing up with her afraid to open my mouth, afraid that I was going to get in trouble for the next thing, because it was always something with her. She was never happy. You know, I mean, I can't say she was never happy. That's not really true. But it seemed like there was a lot of conflict. That was
more of the majority of the time.
Yeah, and because we stayed home with her, so my dad, she didn't go off to work. We never went to daycare. There was none of that in the 60s when I was growing up. All the moms were home. You were with your mother all day long, all summer long. And so you got to experience all these highs and lows of her craziness, you know. And so when I had my kids, I was determined, and even though as fucked up as things were from time to time, as I was raising my children, because I was dragging a lot of shit along with me and doing other things that brought more crap into my life, I actually turned out 3 good kids that then 2 of whom turned around and had children of their own. And they're kind of like, I feel like you and your sister were like the same kind of mothers. Like, we want to create this better environment.
So,
like, we saw what our mom went through, so we want to try to create a better environment for our own children.
Yep. And I think that even Jolene, you know, my sister has 2 kids, and so even for her, deciding to leave the dads, it's devastating for us, because we wanted so badly to not do that, to not pass down what we felt like with our dad being gone. And when we had to make the decision of what's better for us and our children, there was a piece of us that kind of died, you know, like, oh God, I feel like I'm gonna get emotional. Because you don't want that. You don't want to split up a family. But how is it a family if there's abuse there, you know? Like, you couldn't leave, or you stuck around as long as you could for us. And then when you finally did leave, it was like, I don't fucking care where we're going. I don't care if we live under a tree or a bridge. Like, we're getting out of this fucked up situation.
Yeah, and I spent almost 10 years with Jolene and Jamie's dad. And half that time he was incarcerated. Most of the time we were both using drugs. So it was very chaotic. And, you know, when the kids were little, when your kids are like really little, you can sort of gloss over that. But as soon as they start becoming aware
and mimicking you
and then we had the third one, Jolene. And so by the time I hit 30, or was getting close to 30, I was 29 when another incident happened where my husband, actually this time he hit me because I was really confrontational with him, and he
dad?
Yeah. And
because they weren't really physically abusive. He
wasn't physically abusive, but there were times when I'm good at pushing buttons, and I knew how to push all of his fucking buttons, and I would do it. And I knew I already knew what was going to, I didn't know that he was going to hit me, but I knew I was going to send him over the edge, you know, in terms of being able to control his anger.
What do you think it was that made you want to push him? Like, what did you want as a reaction?
I wanted a reaction.
Oh, okay.
That was the thing. A lot of our thing was when you have 2 people that are off in their own world, getting high and stuff like that, and doing their own thing, then, and especially with him, he would be off with all the people that do it, and I would be stuck home with the kids.
So he's like away from you.
Yeah, so he was away, and I wanted his attention, you know, so I really didn't, you know, so I would intentionally start these fights with him just because I wanted him to pay some kind of attention to me. And that's just awful. When I think back, I kind of feel sorry for him
because you gave him so much shit so you could get attention.
Yeah, because, you know, it was really a terrible way to go about getting somebody's attention is to make them lose their shit. You know, that doesn't help a relationship. But anyway, the point I was getting back to was by the time I hit about 29, and Jolene was a little over a year old. She might have been 18 months old. I looked around at my life. He was back in jail again. And this time he said, you can file. I was always threatening him. If he didn't straighten out, I was going to file for divorce, right? That was always like the ultimatum. If you don't do this, I'm going to divorce you. Well,
a way to control.
Well, this last time, because when he hit me, I called the cops. I put his ass in fucking jail. And so on the phone, talking to me from jail, he's like, you might as well divorce me because I can't be with someone who puts me in jail, because that had never happened before, but it was an escalation of things that were going on. And so I was like, okay. But I realized that I looked at my kids and I was like, my God, they deserve a better life than this shit, you know? And I just decided at that point, I just quit drugs. I just woke up one day and I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. These kids deserve better. And after that, there was no looking back.
Yeah. And you took the first ride out of town. We moved from beautiful San Diego to bumfuck Kansas, and I hated every minute of it. I missed the ocean so much.
I had to get away from California because he was going to get out of jail in 6 months, and I already knew
the routine, the pattern.
I knew that there would be no way that we could stay away from each other, because we had this we had magnetic pull.
Yeah.
And there would just be no way. It would be the same thing. So I met a guy, and I moved to Kansas City with him. I'd never been there before, and I hated the cold. And
I'd never seen snow, you guys. Like, we were not prepared. I showed up in a summer dress with no shoes, and there was snow on the ground. I was like, what is that? It was fun for like 2 seconds, and then it was miserable.
Well, and then the guy that I picked turned out not to be what he represented himself to be. So that's a whole nother talk show.
I mean, this is where, you know, I got to see you making choices and living life the way that you felt like you could. And so I guess for me, when self-worth comes up, that's part of it, right? Is like what we're raised around sometimes can determine how we feel about our worth and what we're good enough for. You know, like I was raised, I hate to say poverty, but I mean, we were just really low income. We were pretty poor.
Listen, I was on welfare when the kids were little, you know.
Yeah. So it's not really like poverty, I don't think.
No, it's poverty.
Okay.
If you're on welfare in California, you're
poverty.
living on it's pretty close to the poverty level, and probably below it, because, you know, the last 10 days of the month it was hot dogs and macaroni and cheese, you know, because there was no money.
Yeah.
And so and you know, treats were rare. Christmas was hard. New school years were hard.
Yeah.
You know, anytime you had to go and do something big, there was just no money for that.
Yeah.
So no, it was, I mean, we had a roof over our head.
Yeah.
We had food, but we definitely did not have money. And so
with self-worth, for me, the way that translated into as I grew up is like, there are people who are born with money, and those will be rich people. And then there are people who are born without money, and they won't ever have money because they weren't born into it. And I had it took me a long time to work through money issues because of that. And I'm not going to say that that's necessarily generational, but it was a learned behavior, thinking that you either have money or you don't have money. There is no fixing that problem, which is really untrue.
It's not true.
And so, like, even the way that I decided life was, you know, there's no money for college. I better figure some shit out. So I joined I knew I was joining the military, but I didn't do it for college. I did it because I wanted to travel. But I used to tell people, like, I looked all smart and shit, and I'm going to get $40,000 for college. Like, I ever planned on using it. But it just sounded good. Like, look, I can go to college and, like, for free. So the self-worth part of that was I never gave myself very high goals of what I could become or what I could do. I never saw myself being a CEO. I never saw myself being in charge of a lot. I had to retrain myself, you know, and the Navy did help with that. But my self-worth was truly affected only because I didn't see you being treated with a lot of worth either, you know. It was
I didn't feel like I had a lot of worth. I mean, that's, you know, when you're parents pretty much give up on you when you're like 11 and turn you over to the state of California because they don't want to deal with you anymore, and that's where you spend the rest of the next 4 years, which is what happened to me. Then and plus, you know, I had stuff when I was little, like my dad disappearing. You know, my mom left me from the time I was 8 months old till I was 3. She left me with my grandmother. So, I mean, those things definitely play into, like, what am I and who am I and what is my value as a person?
If nobody wanted you back then,
right? Like, I mean, it really does damage to yourself, you know, to your identity, to who you are. Like, because if your parents don't love you, if your parents don't want you, then how do you reconcile that? Now I'm going to cry.
Oh, that's okay. Then I would love to tell this story because I was mad enough about knowing these things. My mom was always really honest with us about her upbringing and how kind of awful her mom was. So I never had a desire to meet my grandma, but it's like...
When you did, you actually thought she was nice, didn't you?
Because she was nice. And then she left in the middle of the night like a crazy person after all these promises of like, we're going to hang out and get to know each other. And I was like, oh my God, she's not as bad as my mom said. And then she was that bad. And I was like, fuck you, fuck her, fuck that, I'll never... And then I did meet her again, like, probably 6 years ago. And I had a lot more grace with her. I was like, you know what? She did the best she could with what she had. And, like, who knows what the fuck she went through. There was more forgiveness when I met her and less judgment. Even knowing how bad that I realized she was to my mom and how many things, like, the back and forth, the kidnapping, all the things they did with my mom. Oh, my God. Just the shit. I'm like, who lives like that? Who decides?
My parents
those
basically
things?
used me as a tool to hurt each other. My
I
mother
call
and father.
it child warfare because you use your child.
That's what they did.
As the tool to hurt other people and like play this fucked up game.
And then when I was fucked up and like crazy and I don't want to say I was crazy. I switched from
assertive.
What I switched from was being docile. You're right, because I could never open my mouth around my mother when I was little because I'd probably get hit. So I was very timid, but I reached a point where I said I got my voice, and then my voice came out kind of wild and like I didn't know how to even control it, and so I was really rebellious, and I really didn't give a shit I didn't care what I said. I mean, I told my mom I hated her only because I had a safe place to do that from, which was in a juvenile hall visiting room. You know, I could have never said that to her at home. I would have been afraid of what would happen to me. But once I had that, what I almost felt was like this protection. It was like, now the state of California controls me and you don't have any say. And so now I could say mean things that I always felt.
Your face really expresses that when you... Like, I feel like you can see yourself saying that in the room.
You know what? I can picture us in... I told my parents came to see me because even though my mother locked me up in juvenile hall, they did come to visit me in the beginning, and I actually told them that I had used drugs and had sex, and I never had. I was like... I was fucking 11, you guys, okay? I had never done that.
It was this...
What I wanted was the reaction from them, you know? I wanted to, I don't know, see them squirm.
Okay, so I love this because there's a connection there, right? You did that with your parents to get reaction so that you could feel something. Then you learned to do that with your partners to feel something.
I did.
And it was like, if I can't be loved the way I want, I'm going to make you suffer, so at least, you know, we can see something's going on here. But I also think that, like, I've seen it in other women where they want to sort of attack, or attack is strong, but whatever. Attack, hurt, get at, harass their partners because they don't feel loved enough, and they're like, prove you love me, motherfucker. Like, fight for me.
Validation. I think you're looking for some kind of validation. Like, do you even care enough to react and do anything and say anything? I mean, there's
unhealthy, but
super unhealthy. So, anyway, you were going to tell a story, I thought, and I think I got you distracted, but...
No, it was just, these were my things that I took from the generational stuff that I wrote down, because it was the single mom thing, which really fucked me up. That was my number one, man. I didn't want to do that. That was the hardest one for me. I felt like a failure at that point, and I hadn't failed anything. I'd actually saved myself, but for whatever reason, that felt like I generationally did the same fucking thing, and I was like, no. And that goes into relationships where you think you have a bad picker, you're not good with men or whatever. So it was all these things surrounding that as well. Then my self-worth. The next step is freedom. I think I learned that from you most of all. I feel like we were sort of raised in a cage, and you were like, when you get out of here, run. Run far, run fast, do whatever the fuck you want. Don't get tied down. Don't let anybody hold you back. And no joke, like, I joined the Navy right after I turned 17, and that was like... I was getting ready to be set free.
She was gone a week after she graduated high school.
5 days,
1 week, 5 days.
5 days.
She was gone. That was it. And then I didn't see her.
Everybody kept trying to talk me into staying for the summer. I was like, to do what?
Yeah.
Like, to do fucking what? No.
And I was really glad that you... I was so glad that you made that decision You know, you had she did pick it because she did pick the military because she wanted to see the world, and she picked the Navy specifically.
It was a free ride. Like, all I had to do is follow orders, and they're not allowed to hit me, and like, yeah, I'm gonna get cussed out. I was like, show me something new. Like, what are you really gonna do to me that's not been done? Like, I wasn't afraid at all. And all these other people, I had so many people, you know, because I'm kind of cute and I'm pretty and whatever, they're like, you're just gonna wind up pregnant and blah blah blah. I was like, how fucking dare you tell me what my life is gonna be? So I had all these people doubting me as well, and I just couldn't wait to prove people wrong at that point. But next was the money and the hard work, right? So that was something we were really raised with, was like, the only way you get money is through really hard work. Mm-hmm. And now we know manifesting and spells and all of that.
I worked 3 jobs for like,
I know,
18 years.
Fuck,
something
I know.
To raise, because once I got out, you know, you couldn't live on welfare forever, right?
Yeah.
So I had to get a job, but then that didn't go very far. So then I needed a second job. And then once I got a taste of having money, then it was like when a third job was offered to me, which was a part-time gig that I could do. It wasn't like go to an office.
Yeah.
It was intermittent work, but it paid well. And I was like, hell yeah, give me all you got. I'll take everything. I worked long hours at my second job because
the hard work that you put in.
Because the reward was the money, and I got to do things for my kids that I had not been able to do. Yeah. You know, and the feeling that you get when you can actually go buy your kids new school clothes at the beginning of the year without worrying about, are you going to be able to pay the light bill? Listen, even to this day, I will work my fucking ass off. I really don't care. If that's what I have to do, that's what I'll do. So money, big thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I had the thought, but then it changed for me with learning spells and like trusting the universe and knowing that everything will come to me easily.
And I'm new, so I'm still learning that. I'm still learning that part of it, learning to trust that. Well, I'm not learning to trust. I know now that everything comes to you.
You are trusting it.
Yeah, like I am trusting it.
I love that. Yeah. So in addressing generational traumas and sort of how does this even happen, right? And one of the things is like family mottos. And I know we've touched on this a little bit, but what your family says when they're all together is it ingrains you. And there's this guy, I can't say his last name, Jay Shetta. I don't know how to say his last name, but he said something really relevant that I loved, and I want to read it to you. Whenever you're around your family and people are like telling stories and they're like, oh, that's just, you know, the Williams blood, that's what runs in us, you know, and that could be said with anything from addiction to, you know, bad with relationships, being money hungry or wanting to like break free, be alone, like whatever the patterns are that we observe in families, those are sort of what people say at Christmas and Thanksgiving and whenever the fuck we get together and we all talk shit on
you start telling the stories
or whoever.
And you tell the stories and you see the patterns, and so then you're like, hey, you know, it almost seems unavoidable.
Yeah. So it reminds me of the clan stories for, you know, way back when, Scotland, Ireland, all of that. Clans were known for things, right? These are the fighters, these are the makers. And it was because everybody retold that story. So if you were born into that clan and you weren't a good fighter, which was one of our favorite movies, How to Train Your Dragon. Okay, I know it's a kid's movie, but Cameron loved that because the boy was born to the guy who was like the best dragon slayer ever, and he ends up helping a dragon and like, no, we can be friends with them. I was like, that's me. That's so me. Like born into a family of all these people who do these things. I was like, I don't really want to do any of that. Can I do something else? And you get shunned for it. So if you don't go along with what the family says you're supposed to be, you are facing being ostracized, being the, you know, the black sheep of the family.
Well, and even if you're not ostracized, I think you can feel like an outsider.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, and maybe that's part of the other reason why you took your escape that you did, because she didn't come back. You know, I mean, she left to go to the Navy,
Forever,
and then she never came back home.
I never had a plan to come back either.
And she was never coming back home, and I don't think I knew that when she left, or I might have had different feelings about it, because I didn't know she wasn't coming back. She never told me that.
No, never coming back. So he said this thing, we make someone else's noise, the stories, we make somebody else's noise and we turn it into our voice. And there's this part about it where you hear those stories about your family for so long that all of a sudden you forget that you never thought that. and it becomes your voice, your inner voice of like, that's just the Williams thing to do. That's just how dragon slayers are. That's just how, you know, people born into whatever, like, that's just our story. We don't get to change it. And although I love the history of having family stories and traditions, which we didn't have a lot of traditions, when we make our own traditions and we set ourselves apart, and that's what I think spirituality and witchcraft brought for us, because we didn't have a place in that sector. Like, our world had a lot of stuff, but none of us talked about spirituality. We dogged religion because of all of your Catholic bullshit with your family. There wasn't a space for that for us, and I had to, being the Pisces that I am, I had to find my own spiritual space. Yeah. And it gave me that. And so I, with books and podcasts and now YouTube's shows, I found the stories that I wanted to believe instead of listening to the family stories. But it took me breaking away. It took me literally like getting out of it, being away from it, seeing that there can be different things in the world. So just know that this is a good thing to like write down. Don't let somebody else's noise become your voice. So repeating the stories that other people tell you are true about your family line or where you come from, that's all good and well, but that does not have to be like what you do. And I think that was what you were basically saying to me when you were like, when you get out of this cage, fucking run. You don't ever have to be that. You don't got to do any of this. You don't got to be here. I don't expect that from you. She gave me the freedom to choose where to go.
I always told my kids to go and see the world and not stay in one place. Be free, because I think that it's so important to go away from the things that you've always known, because the growth that you can experience and the experiences that you can have and the people that you can meet, all of that. And, you know, just get out of your hometown, man. Go somewhere else and live somewhere else and see the world, you know, see what else is out there, because otherwise you just stay in this really small space. And, you know, you sort of get...
What growth can happen when you're stuck in that space?
Yeah, you can't, because you
can't, like, I think it would be very hard to grow in a small petri dish of a place, you know, where there isn't anything new.
Petri dish is a good description of that.
Yeah.
Kansas, our life in Kansas City, at least for a while. So.
Well, I think about this with my husband's, you know, granddaughters, and how the family up there made them feel really bad for wanting to move to Florida, because they would come and visit us and they wanted to be here, and it was, you know, like they wanted to get out. They saw how other people could live, and then they saw how their grandparents lived up there, and they're like, we're going to choose Florida. Like, fuck this. Yeah. And they were really hurt and mad and pressured them into staying. You know, it's like, don't leave. How could you leave us? We've been here your whole life. And that pressure, man, I don't know. That's part of breaking the generational thing, because I bet their parents did the same things to them. Like, no, you're from here. What are you doing? You can't leave here. You're part of this. This is where you're born and raised and where you should die.
Absolutely. And some people feel like you always have to be with your family no matter what. You know, family is everything, and you can never go away and go live your own life and not constantly be in touch with your family.
That's so controlling and fucked up.
And you know what? And I'm here to tell you that absolutely you can do that, and sometimes you have to do that, because the relationships or all of the things that bind the families together, especially when there's a lot of trauma and a lot of chaos that went on as you're growing up, and you have people that make you feel shit about the things that you want to do or how you're trying to improve your life. You can get drugged back in by people in your family. So I am estranged from my family. I don't talk to my mother. I talk to one sister. I have 3 siblings that are still alive. And you know what? It's we don't have anything in common anymore, and that's been a long time ago. And so you know, you can get away from them, and sometimes you really need to get away from them, because otherwise your growth is stunted, and you perpetuate the things that happened in the previous generation, or maybe the previous 2 generations, if it's a family where we got grandparents, parents, and now you. And then, you know, now you're having a kid, and so then you see all this stuff, you know. It's like, no, get away. Run, and don't ever fucking come back.
That's just one way of being able to grow for yourself, is to not be stuck in a place that is really toxic for you. So I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping this up because I want to make a couple of endpoints that I think are really, really valid.
Okay.
And whether they were said or not throughout the podcast. I think one of the best endpoints is what is done to you is not personal. Like, as a Pisces, like, that's something that I really had to work past, that everything that was done to me, and that's how I saw it, is not personal. These are people that are reacting in the only way that they know how. They're using the skills and the knowledge that they have, which might not be very much. So don't take it so personally when people treat you in this way and try to, control you and put you in that group. Remember that you always have the freedom to act on your own, and you don't have to please anybody but yourself.
I think that's so true. When I think about, I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, you don't. Go ahead.
Oh.
Sorry, I had.
It's not personal.
It's not personal. Well, yeah. And also, and I think you said something really important earlier when you met your grandmother 6 years ago or whenever it was. Yeah. You approached her with much more grace. And even though I'm estranged from my mother, I'm at the point where I don't hold anything against her. We just don't connect, and I don't have the energy to try to build a relationship at this age, at our ages, because there's too much water under the bridge, and she is who she is. She's not going to be here very much longer, and I look at her now, and I see I can recognize the little girl, the damaged little girl. So
because she went through all that shit too,
yeah.
And then she tried to do something different,
and so she didn't do the things that she did, and the fact that we could never have a good mother-daughter relationship like I was lucky enough to have with my own children. It was not personal.
Yeah.
All the shit that she did to me, she was dealing with her own shit.
Yeah. And that's why it's not personal when you start to try to see it from from the other person's perspective, they were doing the best they could with what they had. That's the kind of grace that I try to give people when I don't understand why they're fucked up. I'm like, you didn't do the self-work. You weren't able to break it. You didn't, in this lifetime, you didn't get that far.
Yeah.
But it's a jumping pad for us where we can get further, So with you, it started a little more, and then with me, it's even more. And now look at us. Look where we are. Now we're helping other women. It's like, it was a place to start. Setting healthy boundaries with current family members. We're not talking about that in this podcast, but because this could trigger a lot of stuff with you, please understand that setting healthy boundaries with people you should not feel guilty about. You should not subject yourself to
storage on your phone.
I know.
Oh, okay.
I already saw it. We were trying to put this on YouTube and record a video with it, and it failed.
Okay, that's fine.
Just remember that healthy boundaries are a really good way to start protecting yourself from the stuff that's going on. If you recognize a lot of the things that we talked about in this podcast, the one thing that you can do right now is set a healthy boundary and say, no, I don't want to come over for family dinner. No, I don't want to engage in that. I have other plans, whatever it is. But just set a healthy boundary for yourself so that you can't keep being re-traumatized, by hearing the stories, by going through the shit. It sucks. Only do what you can do. Talking about forgiveness, when you forgive somebody, know that you're not condoning their past actions. You're letting go of your emotional connection to it. You're like, I forgive that situation. You don't even have to say I forgive the person. I forgive the situation. I forgive myself for having to be a part of it. What lessons can you take from that? And then move forward from it. Rethinking about the situation attaches you to that specific thing, and you're reliving it in your head, and it's like it happened to you yesterday. Let yourself get further away from the thing that hurt you, from the people, by giving yourself forgiveness, letting the situation have forgiveness, and then moving forward, looking forward, not looking backwards. Yeah.
Is that it? Are those the three things?
It is, but I guess it's tying it back to the practical magic thing, because the movie would not exist if the first girl, Maria, from 300 years ago, would have just forgave the man for not coming back when she was pregnant and not doing the spell to curse him. If she would have just been like, okay, that didn't work out, bye.
Yeah.
But because she held on to that and did that, the spell or the curse, she caused
look at all the generations.
300 years of generations, because she wasn't healed enough to just say, fine, I'll do better without you.
Yeah.
And that is what led us to the sisters doing the stuff and being like, we can do better.
Yeah.
We can be better. And that wraps up our first episode of the podcast For the Witch's Way. Thank you for being here with us, and we look forward to
seeing you next time.
Hearing you. We're on a podcast. We don't have an outro for this.
No,
it's kind of weird.
We don't.
We love you guys. We support you guys, and we hope that the topics that we talked about really help you work through something. And there's more to come. So we will.
Until next time.
I like that. All right. Bye, you guys.